This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Today's podcast is brought to you by Leverage, a new fully featured decentralized futures exchange without compromise. Are you ready to trade the future of crypto today? Well, Leverage is a DEX, so you can trade with your keys and sign orders just with one click, and Leverage is fast. Yes, indeed, Leverage is powered by Gluon, a new layer 2 solution with the scalability and speed of a centralized exchange and the super low fees of a DEX. Yes, Leverage, the new exchange that combines the best features of CeFi and DeFi, so you can trade crypto spot or crypto derivatives with up to 100x leverage while maintaining control of your assets at all times. It's like William Gibson said, the future is already here, but in this case, it's evenly distributed and completely decentralized. Go to leverage.io, and leverage is spelled Leverj.io, and trade the future of crypto today.
Yeah, boy!
My guest today is Aditya Das. Aditya is a blockchain analyst and researcher here at Brave New Coin, and he is on the show because today we're going to talk about NFTs. Simply because NFTs, obviously, one of the hot new key narratives in crypto at the moment, so I'm excited to do this show. Welcome back to the show, Aditya.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be back on the podcast after, I think it's been about 2 years. It's been pretty exciting to have a front row seat and, watch the podcast grow and watch the guests get bigger and see how the viewership is cranked up. So yeah, it's cool to be back. It feels like I'm coming full circle.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic to have you back on, and we may even have you back on sooner than you think. Certainly probably won't leave it such a long time in between episodes next time you come back on, because there's lots of things happening in Ethereum at the moment, and last time you were on the show we spoke about Ethereum and the sort of the journey towards Ethereum 2.0 and a report you'd done on that, and obviously that was a little time ago, but yeah, anyway, I am digressing slightly, but I'd love to have you on again shortly to talk Ethereum, but today it's NFTs. So let's kick off. Why don't we kick off with a bit of a quick definition of what an NFT is? So do you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andy. Maybe the best thing to do first would be to take a step back and establish that a blockchain is a digital record of transactions that can't be changed by a centralized identity. So Bitcoin is the most obvious and classic example of that. However, with Bitcoin, each coin is fungible, which means that they can be traded between one another very easily. So they work like a high velocity tradable currency, where it's easy to know what each Bitcoin is worth, and it's easy for transactors to move the coins around quickly. Non-fungible means the opposite. So non-fungible tokens are indivisible and unique as a token. So each NFT is a special asset on a blockchain. NFTs are unique, and they're digital assets that can be bought, sold, or traded on a blockchain. Non-fungible tokens are cryptographic tokens that represent something, or are another way of looking at them is a unique token with a powerful digital signature on the blockchain that indicates that they are authentic. People sometimes refer to them as provably rare digital assets, which kind of summarize what I said in a much more succinct way. So yeah, provable, rare digital assets or digital collectibles would be a good way to kind of summarize what an NFT is.
Yeah, that is exactly right. A digital collectible is indeed, I think, the easiest way to understand an NFT. And I think, when we're talking about digital collectibles, we're talking often at the moment, I'm sure we'll talk about the digital art world very soon, because that is really big at the moment. And I think one of the stumbling blocks, Aditya, when people start to first learn about NFTs, and the bit that some people struggle to get their head around is because with digital files, especially like a piece of digital art, it's very easy to replicate that digital art. So for example, you could simply take a screenshot of it. So some people are a little bit skeptical, and they would say something like, well, what is the value in owning a piece of digital art if I can simply screenshot that digital art, and then don't I own it as well?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very obvious and good question whenever you're addressing digital art and how to assign value to something that can be so easily replicated, at least at face value. So a good example of the ways that NFTs kind of have a unique imprint, which separates a copy-pasted version versus one that's authentic on the blockchain, is CryptoPunks, which was one of the earliest and original NFTs, which predates even Cryptokitties and the ERC 721 standard, which became Ethereum's sort of primary way of issuing NFTs. So this was technology almost. So CryptoPunks exist as these simple 8-bit portraits that have unique physical characteristics. So it could be hair, it could be a mole, but they're very basic looking images that, again, even more so because they're 8-bit, could be quite easy to copy because they're not high resolution images, and and sort of lose value. However, what makes CryptoPunks what they are and what makes them unique is the fact that the creators of CryptoPunks, Larva Labs, took the hash of a composite image which contains all 1,000 possibilities for what the characteristics a CryptoPunk could have, and the hash of that composite image, which contains kind of specific raw metadata, which distinguishes it compared to other copy-pasted versions like the color gamma or any resizing data. And they took that raw hash, which is unique to that composite image, and put it into the smart contract for each individual CryptoPunk, and that's recorded on the blockchain. So if you take a copy-pasted image and compare the hash of that image, and it doesn't match up with that original composite, then you know that it's not a real CryptoPunk and it's a copy-pasted CryptoPunk. And yes, the other powerful thing about that is the blockchain is immutable. So that composite image, which is recorded on the smart contract, is marshaled by Ethereum nodes and the blockchain.
Thank you for that very thorough answer, Aditya. You're exactly right. There's certain unique properties that the blockchain has, and as you say, it's immutable, and it proves that you have ownership if you have the private keys to that particular smart contract. That effectively proves that you own that piece of content or artwork or whatever it is. And just going back to the kind of the digital screenshot argument, I've never really kind of bought into that as an argument anyway, because it's like saying, in the same way that a famous artwork like the Mona Lisa or something like that, people are quite happy to make copies of those artworks and they still hang them up in their homes. So I'm not sure if that argument really washes. But look, let's keep moving and let's stay with the art world for a moment, because I think at the moment the real the early promise and potential and value, if you like, in NFTs that we're seeing right at the moment is in, I suppose you'd say the creative worlds, but art, music, gaming, but it's especially happening in the art world at the moment. And I think music is probably next. Music is happening as well, but we're seeing this happen at the moment. So look, let's talk NFT art. What are you seeing in the NFT art marketplace at the moment?
Since the turn of the year, and particularly probably since around mid-February, the NFT art world has just gone crazy. We're seeing across the board on multiple different marketplaces, both these kind of algorithmically created art pieces like CryptoPunks and hash masks, where there is a random sort of generated piece of artwork based on composites. And even with unique art, which more resembles kind of the stuff you'd see on Christie's or regular art galleries, both sides of the market are just blowing up. So CryptoPunks, Hashmask, Rareable, So Rare, we're seeing weekly volumes exceeding in the millions of dollars. And right now, CryptoPunks is the biggest market, and it's done 15 million US dollars of trading in the last week. And we're also seeing kind of mainstream platforms who weren't a part of the NFT space maybe 6 months to a year ago, really jumping in quite heavy now. So the most notable one right now is Nifty Gateway, which is run by the Winklevoss twins, who also run the Gemini exchange. And a piece by Mike Winkelmann, aka Beeple, who's probably the most famous NFT artist, sold for about 6.6 million on Nifty Gateway. And off the back of that, Beeple got another piece, which is currently on auction at Christie's, the biggest auction house in the world. And with 4 days left to go before the auction ends, the current highest bid is 3.75 million USD. Yeah, so kind of we're seeing sort of the cross section between the traditional art world and the kind of more cyberpunk digital art world. That cross section is happening right now, and yeah, it's melding together and just growing. Another trend that we're seeing is things being tokenized. Just in the last day is a platform, I can't remember what it's called, but it tokenizes tweets. So you can own a tweet almost like a moment in time. So you can say, I'm not sure how the rights work, but it's essentially, claiming ownership of a tweet. So there is a bid right now, and I think it's about $2 million for Jack Dorsey's original tweet on Twitter. And we're seeing sort of notable tweets that people have made, like Neeraj Agarwal's umbrella tweet, go for a lot of money. And yeah, so people are trying to tokenize things like memes. I think about a month ago, the Nyan Cat GIF, which was huge on the internet about 5 to 10 years ago, go for a lot of money. And yeah, so people are finding new things to tokenize. And yeah, I think it seems like the sky's the limit. Another example is NBA Top Shots, which tokenizes moments from games. So people are just trying to find things and transform them into NFTs and pass on ownership, and make them tradable.
Yeah, you've certainly mentioned some interesting, high points, I guess, in the market, and that's a pretty good summary of what's been happening. Did you say the Nyan Cat? How do you say that? The Nyan Cat, the Nyan Cat?
I believe it's Nyan. Nyan Cat.
Yeah, and that, of course, if listeners don't know what we're talking about or can't decipher our accents, that, of course, is the very famous cat gif with the kind of the rainbow floating out behind it.
Cat with the Pop-Tart body.
Yes.
And a rainbow behind it that sort of moves along and as it travels through space. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's probably one of the first memes or one of the first gifs. Yeah. Feels like early internet culture, but yeah.
Internet. Yeah. And one of the first memes that got mainstream notoriety.
And just with the tweet stuff, you talked about people tokenizing their tweets, and I've certainly seen that, and I guess it was Jack Dorsey that's made this possible on Twitter, and it was Justin Sun from Tron who made did he make an offer? Has he put in a bid? Is he serious? Like $2 million to effectively own Jack Dorsey's first tweet, and that's just, there's obviously some really awkward subtext to there, because Jack Dorsey being, I guess, a fairly hardcore Bitcoiner and probably not a supporter of Tron, and so yeah, I don't think that Jack would really want Justin to win that auction.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And I think he's gone into a bidding war with another blockchain CEO who outbid him. And I think the bid currently stands at about 2.5 million USD. But it's quite interesting, that you bring up Justin Sun, because he's made a point of sort of publicly saying that he wants to attach himself to any meme that gets huge. So similar to what he's doing now, trying to buy the first tweet ever and kind of connect himself to the origins of social media, he tried to piggyback on the recent Wall Street bets GameStop explosion by, committing to spend $2 million on buying GameStop stock. And he's referenced wanting to be like Elon Musk. And yeah, it seems like at any opportunity he, wants to put himself into the zeitgeist and get, some sort of infamy by being mentioned among major CEOs or major movements in meme culture.
Yeah. And, well, let's not talk about Justin Sun too much. Instead, let's talk about Cryptokitties. And the only reason I bring up Cryptokitties is because in some ways they were probably one of the first examples of an NFT to go, well, maybe not mainstream, but they were a very much a high point or a memorable moment in the 2017 bull market. And I guess Cryptokitties is still going, but they've kind of fallen out of favor. But I believe they were one of the first digital assets to use the ERC 721 asset standard for NFTs. And now suddenly we have a bunch of platforms, marketplaces, and unique collectible ecosystems such as CryptoPunks, Hashmasks, and the likes, and all these marketplaces like Rarible, OpenSea, and Nifty Gateway. Yeah. Well, let's talk me through how the process actually works here at Aditya. If someone wants to go along and purchase an NFT or even mint their own NFT, what's involved?
And what has actually happened is while things like CryptoPunks and Cryptokitties required quite a lot of developer skill to get like your art off the ground and generally had some programming behind it. What things like Rarible, Super Rare, and Nifty Gateway has done is like any artist can really, really easily and fluidly upload even simple pieces of art onto the blockchain, push it out to buyers, and then earn royalties from the art they create after they're sold on secondary markets. So, for example, with something like Rarible, all you need is a browser with MetaMask installed on it and some ETH in that wallet. Once you have that done, on most NFT art marketplaces, which are just websites, so superrare.com or rarible.com, once you go onto those websites, you are prompted to connect a wallet. Once you do that, you can enter a creator portal and start building your collectible NFT or minting your collectible NFT. The process normally begins with uploading an image, which you can do with most standard file formats, JPEG, PNG, or GIF. Once the image is uploaded, the creator can then add a title, a description, and decide how many copies of the art they want to mint on the blockchain. So this is kind of an important decision. The more copies you create of something, the less scarce it becomes and the less valuable each of those copies are. So generally, if you have like maybe a more ambitious piece, you mint fewer copies because you want each individual copy to be worth more. After that, the other big decision a creator needs to make is how much they want to assign the royalties as a percentage for each future time that piece is sold. So once the creator makes a piece, somebody can buy it. And then when that person buys it, every time it's resold, the original creator earns a portion of each resale. And again, there's a decision to be made there because if you assign a very high royalty, it may not be as appealing to the secondary market because you know that with each time it's resold, the reseller makes less. And yeah, the other cool thing about a lot of these marketplaces is you can also add perks to individual pieces of art. So for example, you can sell a PNG, but attached to that purchase of the PNG, you can include a discount code where once the PNG is unlocked, you get a discount code which offers a discount on physical art sold by the artist. And the final part of the minting process is involves paying an ETH gas fee to the network. And this perhaps is the most complicated part of the process because ETH gas fees are changed kind of on a day-to-day basis, depending on how congested the network. So on one day, you can log in and it will cost $5 to issue a piece of art and open it up to the network, or on a congested day, it can cost $20. So artists kind of beware, because when you try to mint a piece and put it into the market, it's kind of dependent on how congested ETH is, will depend how much you have to pay in order to, sell it. Once you pay the ETH miner fee, MetaMask just asks you to confirm the transaction and it's done. It's off on the open marketplace. People can bid on it. And yeah, there you go. Oh, I think I did mention that it's up to the artist to set a price when they're uploading the token too, when they're uploading the piece of art too.
Yes, very, very interesting thoughts there, Aditya. Thank you very much. And what I think is interesting at the moment is there's also this discussion going on as to whether NFTs are in a bubble, right? Is the marketplace for NFTs frothy? And I think the only answer is potentially yes. If people are paying multi-million dollars for, no matter how interesting, unique, or, well, who knows? I mean, I'm not one to say, but yeah, it does just feel slightly frothy, but that doesn't really matter. That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's how new marketplaces and new monetary ecosystems, new markets, that's how they begin. You need a little bit of irrational exuberance, if you like, just to kind of reach some kind of inflection point. That has very much been the story of the early days of crypto and Bitcoin. And, look, we're still here 10 years later. So I think it's not a bad thing. Ultimately, all this attention and froth is just going to build out the ecosystem and attract more participants to it. So I think, if you zoom out, one way to think about NFTs is like, internet native property rights, right? So you kind of get the best of both worlds, the old school property rights, but with all the leverage and exponential advantages that being digital allows. And effectively, it's just opening up amazing new markets, which can only be a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one point that I want to make is that NFTs and this whole idea of digital signatures takes, ideas that are already inherent in the art world. I like this comparison between some of the stuff that Andy Warhol did in the past to some of the things that, blockchain NFTs and digital NFTs are doing today. So Andy Warhol really liked creating value out of the mundane. He believed value came out of the signature. So, for example, one of the things he used to do was make a bunch of silk screen posters and only sign his a name on a few of them. So he kind of wanted to see whether it was about his signature creating value or if it was about the art itself. So that's kind of the power of NFTs and digital signatures. It is just a better way of an artist putting his signature on a piece of work that lasts forever, that is secured by a network, and that nobody can change. So yeah, it's a really, really new form of authentication. And just like Bitcoin changed the world by showing that there could be an open standard of money, I think NFTs might change the world by showing that there can be new standards for the way we sign digital items. I think right now, NFTs might seem like a novelty, but as we see the effectiveness of these kind of immutable digital signatures and that they last forever and that there is an open economy attached to them that is automatic and it can connect to things like DeFi, the more powerful and the more, deeper the ecosystem becomes and the better understanding we get of it. And yeah, the more people that get involved.
I think that's exactly right. We just are in the early phases of this thing. And look, I saw Raoul Pal. He was talking today on Twitter about, he was saying that he finds it fascinating to see traditional finance and business people, trying to get their heads around first Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then DeFi, and now NFTs. And I think the point he was making was that at every stage in the ecosystem, they use the old way of thinking, right? So they go back to the mean reversion thinking instead of thinking in terms of network effects and the exponential growth that is possible in a digital world. And so from that kind of old school way of thinking, everything looks like just a bubble or something ready to pop, a misallocation of capital. But I think that really does miss as I said, really just the power of network effects, Metcalfe's law, if you like, and just this idea that the digital world that we're building is starting to head towards what we probably best understand as the metaverse, right? And I think that there's no denying that the metaverse, in one way or another, is going to come online. But I think there's a certain amount of, maybe you'd call it resistance to change, and that, I'm not sure whether people have this idea of the metaverse. Is it a utopian idea or a dystopian idea? Could certainly be both, but it does start to feel inevitable at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if we really do want to build a truly global metaverse or kind of trading ecosystem application that is utopian, we probably want it without a central authority. And crypto might be the only way to do that. And yeah, there's so much that crypto entails in terms of economics, in terms of governance, and that can all be built into the issuance of these NFTs and the issuance of these collectibles. Yeah, if we are going to build some sort of interactable digital world like the ones we see in Ready Player One, you'd probably want a neutral platform so that it doesn't become too draconian or there aren't too many rules. And yeah, it's just, if we are working towards a new ideal, we probably would want it to be decentralized and build around ideas like the blockchain. I think we've already seen it coming into action with the most recent pandemic-driven lockdown. Global economies have changed, and artists and pretty much anybody that's, is used to selling things physically have had to change the way they operate. Things like e-commerce has had to advance, and decentralized NFT art marketplaces have benefited from this environment because they have offered artists a way to sell their art in an easy, accessible, kind of direct form without middlemen and allow them to keep making a living. And yeah, it's point in effect. Yeah. There has been an issue and NFT art marketplaces have solved the problem. And it's a positive development towards that idea of a metaverse or a digital economy. Yeah, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. And you made a great point, Aditya, when you're talking about this idea of the metaverse as, I think you used the term neutral platform, but let's just say, an open, permissionless platform where everyone plays by the same rules and there is no central authority who can, make the rules or change the rules. And I think that's the most powerful point here, because you wouldn't, like Facebook, right? They have all this power and they can choose the rules on their platform, and they are building out their version of the metaverse, right? They're investing in, I think, Oculus, that, the VR platform. They own it, I think. So, they're going full steam ahead in their version of it. And I'm reminded that I think, Tim Sweeney, who's the CEO at Epic Games, who of course famously own and build Fortnite and the Unreal Engine, I think, he talks about the metaverse being just really powerful and all-encompassing, and it will be eventually, 10, 20, 40, 50 years from now. And, if one central company or government even is able to gain control of that, then, they become more powerful than any other entity on Earth. And I just think that really would be a dystopian vision. So, yeah, that's why I think that's a really long-winded way of saying if we are going to build the metaverse, it needs to be done really on the blockchain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like we talked about earlier, NFTs have created a business model for creators to sell any of their digital work online. And it works. It's got a few issues with UX. And for example, having to pay with ETH is a huge barrier, not just because it's hard for non-crypto people to access ETH, but also ETH is a speculative asset that changes in value and doesn't work really well as a currency. There are things that it needs to get around in order to, be the, perpetual engine of the art economy we want it to be, but it's almost there. I think the next step is for digital works to ultimately flow into creator tokens, where, as opposed to identities and people, we start looking at artists as potentially addresses or kind of social media accounts where artists don't have to use things like Twitter or YouTube to amass wallets. They can use crypto wallets or crypto accounts to, meet their audiences or sell directly to their audiences. There are advantages of anonymity, easier access to buying and selling, and perhaps most importantly, not having to answer to a central platform or being at the whim of a third party or a corporation that can arbitrarily censor you or change your economic model or change your revenue sources. So yeah, I think what we're seeing right now, this excitement is driven again to some extent by speculation and hope for what NFTs will become and what they might be able to enable.
Yes, I love that. I think, what you're talking about there is really, it's a new technology stack, really. And I think it's also about, one of the most capitalist things you can do, really, which is cut out the middleman, right? So, cut out the middleman and, grow the pie. So it's not about taking money out of the system. It's about moving the money around to the people who are the creators and the people who are the consumers, right? Without the record company in the middle, which is, the music industry has a long and storied history of ripping off artists. The cut that the record industry takes was just astronomical. But now, yeah, it really is about empowering the individual, empowering the individual creator and the individual audience, and being able to attach user data, user money, user income, rewards, directly down to the granular individual level to different artworks. And man, it's just a whole new world, a brave new world, as we like to say here at Brave New Coins. But let's look forward. If we cast our eye forward, and you have kind of hinted at this, Aditya, I think that one of the cool ideas about NFTs is as the technology matures, you can imagine artwork that is, it's a puzzle, right? So depending on certain X, Y, Z things that happen in the world, the artwork can change or reveal new sides to it or pay out new royalties as it's sold on the secondary markets. But yeah, what does the future of NFTs look like?
Well, it's interesting that we talk about the future and kind of this explosion of NFTs. What we're seeing right now is a real experimentation phase, like shooting in the dark, proliferation. So what we saw immediately after things like CryptoPunks and hash masks is a whole bunch of copycat projects, which were trying to kind of ride on its back. After CryptoPunks, there was Binance Punks, and after hash masks, there were bash masks. So what it seems like is everybody's trying to like fight for their share of the pie. And, we're seeing copycat projects, we're seeing dunks, we're seeing music, we're seeing all these people throwing their hat into the NFT ring to try and figure out what will generate value. It's still kind of difficult to say. So some people believe that it will be a franchise that creates value for an NFT. So NBA Top Shot is a good example of that. The fact that the NBA has its copyright and its logo backing the NBA Top Shot platform is why, everybody is getting excited about it. NBA players are tweeting about it. That, differentiates something like NBA Top Shot from a random Pokemon collectible game on Ethereum that an app, some nobody app developer made. With CryptoPunks and Hashmouse, it was all about scarcity. It was all about saying that there was a certain number of these NFTs being made and there would never be any more. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what works and what doesn't work. And I think the market is already kind of showing signs that things like scarcity or a brand backing a piece of art, really creates value. But yeah, who knows what the future is going to show.
Oh man, it is crazy times, and I think that the sports stuff is it's good because whenever you have like a let's say like an A-list sports brand in something like basketball or baseball or football or whatever it is, these global sports brands have, fan communities in the millions, if not hundreds of millions. And so whenever you have a portion of those fans will be super fans who are prepared to spend real money on digital collectibles. And, there's just that kind of simple fact of reality. It's hard to see how that doesn't just bring eventually a wave of people into the crypto ecosystem just by that kind of hook. And in the meantime, we're seeing, just like in the kind of the 2017 ICO cycle, we saw a dubious participation from dubious celebrities. And we're seeing that now with NFTs, seeing the likes of Paris Hilton and Kim.com get involved. Perhaps on the less dubious side, Mark Cuban is famously getting very involved in all things DeFi, Ethereum, and NFTs. And I believe, didn't he just enable the purchase of merch or tickets for whatever sports team he owns using Dogecoin, which is just not something I would have expected to see even a month ago.
And it's quite surprising that he would enable Doge purchases. And I think, again, we're in that experimentation phase. A personal opinion of mine is that certain things work better as NFTs than others. So, for example, art, it's easier to attach a signifier or authorize a piece of art than it is, say, a piece of music. With music streaming services, forced music into this kind of pro rata subscription-based model, whereas art has never fallen into that kind of failing. It's stayed where individual pieces of art retain their value, whereas individual pieces of music, because of modernization, have lost their value and it's become a race to the bottom. Whereas art, it hasn't really fallen into that race to the bottom trap. And I think that's because it's easier to sign them, or it's easier to determine, a signature or differentiate between pieces of art or, the artist's original copy.
Are you ready to trade the future of crypto today? Introducing Leverage, a self-custodial decentralized exchange that performs with the speed and features you're accustomed to. Leverage is fast. It's powered by Gluon, a revolutionary DeFi infrastructure that makes DeFi work at scale. It brings speed, transparency, and massive gas efficiencies to its users. Say goodbye to exchange hacks, front-running, Ethereum network congestion, and high fees. Leverage is the future of trading. It combines the best features of CeFi with all the benefits of DeFi. Like William Gibson said, the future is already here, but in this case, it's evenly distributed and completely decentralized. Go to leverage.io and trade the future of crypto today.
Well, we should finish this off. Just before we close this out, can I tell you my Mark Cuban story? And
Absolutely, please.
If I tell you, I mean, you're actually sitting next to me, I think, at when this happened. But I'll tell the listeners. Well, it was Josh actually, Josh Olszewicz, who most people will know. He mentioned to me in passing that Mark Cuban was starting to get booked for some crypto podcasts, and I should reach out and try and book Mark. And so I thought, well, okay, easier said than done, right? How do you just reach out to a billionaire and say, hey, bro, come on the show? But so I went to his website, markcuban.com, whatever it is, and it's a pretty full-on website. It has all his portfolio companies and sports teams and blah, blah, blah. But looked all through it. There's absolutely no way to contact either him or his team on the website. So I just Googled, how do you contact Mark Cuban? And lo and behold, found a thread that had a random Gmail address for him that apparently he checks. So, worth a go, right? So I emailed him and, I gave it about probably 2 to 3 minutes thought, that you sort of think to yourself, how do I write an email that is super, super concise, but interesting enough that he will read and respond to, if indeed this was his email address. Anyway, so I send this email off, basically just saying, hey, Mark, I hear you're into NFTs. Will you come on the Crypto Conversation podcast and talk NFTs? And I shit you not, Aditya, and well, you were sitting next to me, but I think within 10 minutes, I had a response from him. Now, to be fair, he didn't say yes. He said, hi, thanks for your email. I'm very busy at the moment, but try again in 2 weeks. But I was kind of amazed that Mark is just kind of sitting there reading and responding to his own emails. But I think that's what some super high functioning billionaires, that's kind of their edge, right? That's what they do.
Yeah, no, it's really cool that he still does it, himself, and he doesn't go through a secretary. Well, it's actually funny because I was looking forward to seeing him appear on the Up Only live stream.
I know, right? And what happened there? He stood them up.
He stood them up, and they had to get who they referred to as the Indian Mark Cuban, Neeraj Agarwal,
yes,
who is apparently his new stand-in. So yeah, if Mark doesn't work out, then maybe Neeraj can jump in.
Yeah. So, well, it'll be interesting to see if the Up Only guys can get Mark on the show, and I think they'd have a pretty good shot at it. And also be interesting, listeners, to see if I can get Mark here on the Crypto Conversation. So that'll be one of the key narratives that we'll be tracking as we go deeper into this crypto bull market. But for now, Aditya, let's finish this off. Anything else you want to say? And look, tell the listeners where they can go to find you on your various platforms and any shout outs you want to do, etc. Take us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Andy. It was a pleasure. I enjoy talking to you every day at work. So, it's nice to be in like a slightly different format. And yeah, it was great recording with you. In terms of NFT, yeah, I think what we're seeing right now in the market is it's really in a state of mania. People are flipping pieces. You're seeing, Top Shots values just skyrocketing. People making like oversized gains. So the one thing I would say for anybody trading NFTs right now, and this is very normal advice for anybody trading as well in general, is take some profits. Don't hold on for your NFTs for too long. Any green trade is a good trade. So yeah, if you're up 1,000% on a piece of art or a piece of, a digital collectible you've just bought, there's nothing wrong with selling. You're probably gonna regret not taking advantage of the current market conditions if you just hold on forever. Yeah, you can find me at Twitter. My handle is @DasCrypto4You. Happy to connect with people on LinkedIn as well, which is just Aditya Das. And yeah.
Very nicely said. All right, my man, thanks for being on the show. I'll see you back in the office tomorrow. Bye for now.
Sweet. Thank you, Andy.
All right, there you go. Always a pleasure to talk to my good buddy Aditya, and yeah, really interesting to talk NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and look, it's every year the crypto narratives, they just get more interesting, more mind-bending, and they show us another slice of what markets are capable of, the power of the individual, and this really interesting science fiction future that we are all building. It's beautiful to see. All right, better leave it there. I'm out of here. Thank you for listening to today's show. Please do subscribe to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using. And we'll see you real soon. Bye for now. This was the Crypto Conversation for brave and new